The tragic deaths of 4 men who were trapped in an underwater oil pipeline at Paria Fuel Trading Company Limited in Pointe-a-Pierre could not have failed to move anyone. In the middle of the widespread sadness came questions about how the tech divers got trapped and what appeared to be an absence of formal rescue operations. On February 25, divers Fyzal Kurban, Kazim Ali Jr, Rishi Nagassar, Yusuf Henry, and Christopher Boodram were performing maintenance when they were all sucked into a pipeline by a vortex caused by a sharp difference in water pressure known as a delta P. Only Boodram managed to escape and later provided an emotional testimony at the inquiry. The bodies of the divers were found after 5 days of worry, supplication, and hope. Ali, Henry, and Kurban were found first on February 28, followed by Nagassar on March 3. In order to identify them, distraught family members traveled to the Forensic Sciences Center. Yusuf Henry, Henry's father, left the FSC building, cried out in sorrow like a parent would, and afterwards sobbed from the trauma of having to try to identify his dead son. As I entered, they, FSC employees, warned me and the others in the room, explaining how horrible the situation would be and what we would see. When I looked at the face, I realized it wasn't that of my son. Dark as night and deformed. Disfigured refers to something like being faceless. He was unable to identify the beaten, bloated, and oil-covered body on the FSC card. But he was able to identify his son thanks to a distinguishing tattoo that said outlaw. The voices of the last moments of the divers, when the COE played a GoPro audio clip of the voices of the trapped men, people in the comfort of their own homes, offices, and workplaces across the country were undoubtedly brought to tears. People started hearing the voices of the men when they were alive, in their final hours in the pipe, after seeing photographs of the men's bloated corpses being shared online. Surprisingly, the men's voices reflected camaraderie, optimism, and hope despite their desperate circumstances, rather than a tone of horror or panic. Before we dive into further details, let's first find out what is delta P in bodies of water. The symbol for pressure changes is called delta P. Delta P, on the other hand, can be dangerous if discovered underwater, and even the smallest errors in judgment have resulted in catastrophic mishaps. The high-pressure water will always try to go to the lower-pressure water when 2 bodies of water meet, and one has a higher pressure than the other in order to create balance. This fundamental concept has led to a number of concerns with divers working underwater. A diver will be pushed along by the force of the adjusting water if they are in a high-pressure area of the water, and a connection to a lower-pressure area of the water suddenly opens. If the gap between the 2 bodies of water is small, the diver may be drawn onto it. Because thousands of pounds of pressure may be trying to pass through the gap, the diver is pinned and unable to escape before they drown. There are countless tragic instances of divers working underwater and losing their lives to delta P. Frequently, the diver is cleaning a blockage between 2 bodies of water, but as the barrier is eliminated, a link is opened and the diver is trapped as water rushes through. In 1989, 3 divers in Maine were trying to clear a filter inside a dam when water suddenly started to flow through, pinning one of the divers to the filter. When the first diver became stuck on the filter as well, a second diver rushed in to try to save him. The third diver was eventually able to raise the other 2 divers to the surface. However, at that point, both had already perished from drowning due to the passage of time. Let's go back to what happened again in the Paria diving tragedy that day. Christopher Boodram reached the end of the pipeline after tugging, pushing, dragging, and crawling through it while carrying a broken arm. However, he nearly gave up after believing he had spotted the angel of death. Boodram was worn out and traumatized. As a result of being inside the pipeline, which contained both oil and water, his muscles were bruised and his eyes were burned. However, what he initially perceived as death was actually a lifeline. It was his diving instructor Ronald Ramuta. At the offshore site of Paria Fuel Trading Company, Ramuta received assistance from Corey Crawford in order to free Boodram from the dangerous line. On February 25, a fatal accident occurred while LMCS workers were fixing a damaged section of the Sea Line 36 riser for Paria Fuel off the port of Pointe-a-Pierre. On that day, shortly after lunch, a differential pressure, delta P, event happened as the divers removed an inflatable plug. resulting in a vortex that drew the guys into the pipeline. He claimed that although they talked about the job, its stages, and its risks, Delta P was not one of the topics brought up. He remembered Ali Jr. waiting nearby on a barge when he was in the habitat with Kurban, Henry, and Nagassar. After the team removed a blank flange, Kurban gave Boodram the order to check to see if another group had completed Cobra testing the line. He claimed that the seals could not fit because of a defect in the pipe. Boodram claimed that as Paria and LMCS talked about the situation, he and the others ate lunch. Ali Jr. notified the crew after lunch that it was okay to move forward without the test. When the inflatable stopper was deflated, Ali Jr. entered the chamber with a spanner, and Boodram noticed water rising in the chamber as they removed the mechanical plug. "Alia, what's up? Look, it's becoming bigger and bigger." Boodram claimed he told his colleagues, "Let's get out of here." He remembered being sucked into a tornado-like event, crashing into the pipeline walls, feeling debris, and holding his breath until his lungs hurt. Boodram abruptly declared that he was out of the water, but he acknowledged that he had no idea whether he was living or dead, or if he was in heaven or hell. He claimed that he thought his colleagues were outside the pipe when he heard Ali Jr. shout out to him, but he soon discovered that the whole team was present. He crept backwards toward Ali Jr. and the others without knowing where he was going. He claimed Henry had a fractured leg and Kurban was moaning in pain. Boodram had hurt his own left arm. Henry disclosed to the others that he had crossed Nagassar deeper down the pipe by crawling. Boodram acknowledged that initially he wasn't sure where to proceed. He claimed that it was his co-workers that put him on the correct track and ultimately saved his life. According to him, the men dragged themselves across the pipeline's horizontal part as they hung on to each other and crossed the ocean floor. Boodram claimed that as they were being pulled over the pipe by 8 to 10 inches of water, he saw Ali's GoPro camera and thought about sending a final message for his family but decided against it. They instead prayed for a rescue. Boodram led the way as the others fell behind as the water level rose as the soldiers drew nearer to the vertical line. But Boodram quickly saw how serious the situation was and how difficult it would be to survive. After moving about 15 feet, he came across a scuba tank. Then he realized he would have to climb to the surface and find assistance for the others. He asserted that he was positive that other divers were already looking in the pipe. Before arriving at the aperture in the habitat, he claimed to have navigated flooded areas of the pipeline and discovered 2 additional scuba tanks. Kurban made an attempt to follow but was unsuccessful. In a recent report, the lone survivor of the fatal diving disaster in Paria expressed disappointment over the final report of the Commission of Inquiry, which was established to look into the incident, being delayed by 3 months. However, Christopher Boodram asserts that he has confidence in King's Counsel Jerome Lynch, the Commission's chairman, to act in the best interests of both him and the loved ones of the 4 divers who perished. And that ends today's episode. Share your thoughts in the comment box below. Please subscribe to Weather Collapse if you want to know more and be updated on the latest news about natural calamities or disasters happening all over the world, and don't forget to like today's video. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.